Hello and welcome along to the Panto podcast. My guest this week is Danny Posthill, who you may know from being a finalist in Britain's Got Talent in 2015. He is a phenomenal impressionist who doesn't stop. That's the only way to describe him. In this episode you will hear lots and lots of silly little impressions. I even do one, but we'll gloss over that. Danny even talks about how he kind of fell into the dame role and what he loves about pantomime so much, and also his thoughts about comedy and what is so wonderful about this exciting world of pantomime. So please sit back and enjoy the latest Panto podcast. This week my guest for the Panto podcast is Danny Posthill. Hello, Danny.
Hiya, mate. You got my name right, which is good.
Well,
because we were talking about, how do I say it? Is it Danny Posthill or Daniel Posthill? Or I think Daniel Posthill will probably sound a bit too middle class, and judging by my accent, I'm clearly not. Yeah, and do you know what? It's well because I'm doing my Edinburgh show this year, and because people get my name wrong all the time, I've decided to call my show That Bloke Who Does Voices, because it's just easy to remember then, isn't it? You know, because when you do corporates and stuff, they just go, oh, that's that bloke who does voices. Do you know what I mean? They forget your name, especially when you've got a second name like Posthill. It's not the one you remember really.
I'm not going to lie. You just think, yeah, Posthill.
Yeah. How do you say it?
Yeah.
Everyone struggles to say it unless they're being corrected, you know.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, there's that bit out the way.
Normally, for the beginning of the podcast, I ask people their first introduction to theatre, but for yourself, being an impressionist, when did you start being a bit creative with the old voices?
Well, do you know what? It was really weird because I used to, when I first started doing impressions, I remember I was about 8-year-old, and I remember I was staying at my nan and granddad's house, and my cousin Tony Hamilton, who's now a famous jockey. Now, by the way, I may add that in. And I was just doing a couple of voices and messing around, and he was like, "Oh, that's brilliant." And it sort of, from then, I just started doing it. And then I used to play football, and I used to do people like John Motson, who's obviously not a commentator anymore. However, I would be delighted if he was there for the World Cup final for England. Well, everyone thinks we're going to get to the World Cup final, don't they? Every single time. But he's, Motti, he just had that voice that drew you in, didn't he? You know, and obviously, I had on Beckham. He was one of my first ones that, I love to do. But then obviously you've got to be up to date with everything. And at the moment, Donald Trump's, whether you love him or you hate him, I hope he gets another 4 years for the sake of my career. It's fantastic. So you've got to just be up to date with everything. And Alistair McGowan gave me some great advice, and it was incredible to meet him. Do you know when I'd done Britain's Got Talent, it was the semi-final. It was the day of the final, I had a migraine, and a friend of mine said to Alistair, look, he's not well. Could you sort of give him some encouragement? He went, what, this guy? Like, Alistair was like, oh, so Danny, do you? He was like, yeah. He went, I've been watching him, I think he's brilliant. And I'm thinking, oh my God. So Alistair rang me to tell me how good he thought I was and good luck for the final, and, and then I met him. And Alistair gave me some great pointers, because what he said to me was, it's all football analogies with Alistair McGowan, if you ever meet him, right? It's all to do with sport. He loves sport, right? So he basically said, the first analogy system is, he says, you're like a football manager, so when you do a gig, you pick your team of who you think's going to play well for the gig. Do you know what I mean? Which I love that one. And another one, as he said about when you're an impressionist, it's more difficult to get your stuff over, because you got to get the voice, then you got to get the setup, then you got to get the punchline. He's in comics who've just got to tell a gag. He said they've got to score a goal, we've got to score a hat trick. So then that was another one, right? And then the other one that he taught me was he said, when you're doing a new voice, he said it's like when you hit a tennis ball. He said as it's coming up, you've got to hit it just at the right time to get that set point. Do you know what I mean? And I thought, wow, is there any more? I'm loving these, But yes, and since I've done different gigs as well, you learn how to adapt your material. Like I was doing I was doing comedy clubs all weekend, and then I was at Thompson Gold Hotel, where it was like, borderline saga crew, so I had to change my stuff, do you know what I mean? But the good thing about the older audiences is they know the politicians, and one of my favourites I like to do is Diane Abbott, because there's a lot of material that you can do with Diane, especially when it comes to numbers. So I'd love to see her in Panto. She'd be brilliant as the fairy, wouldn't she? Can you imagine? just to see her get her lines wrong. Kudos, get her in. I used to do Steve Irwin, he was the most excited Australian man. And he got me interested in animals, and I remember the day he died, I was devastated, because he's always been one of my heroes, he's someone who I'd love to have met. I mean, can you imagine how good it would have been to have met him, Just like you go around his house and what you hit the road, mate, there's a cupboard just there. You'd be like that, whoa, do you know what I mean? Like you've just come round ours and I've just offered you a cup of tea and some hobnobs, you know what I mean?
Did you get the laughs then at school?
Yeah, I was always a bit of a joke. I used to do impressions of my teachers. And, there were some teachers who were just, had great characters about them, I remember one woman called Mrs. King, right? She used to teach me RE. And I remember she used to talk like that. And I remember I used to get in front of the class and do an impression of her. And she used to always walk in and catch me, but she never used to tell me off. Because she used to say to me, you're going to be on the stage when you're older. She was lovely. I used to love getting taught off her. And there was another teacher we had. He was called Dr. Nick, and he was quite a strange one. And he used to sit like, when people do, like someone taps you and say, excuse me, like that. You'd say, sir, can you help us on this? And he'd go, don't touch me, you don't know where I've been. And it was just like really, creepy. But he was a character and he was great. But there was one teacher who used to teach me, Stephanie Aird, she's called, and she does videos on social media, right? Well, I done an impression of her, because I know she used to teach me and I could do an impression of her anywhere. And she's got, like, any amount of followers on social media. So now it's got to the point where me and her have got our own page on Facebook now. It's called the Fanny and Danny page, because she's called Stephanie H. She calls her fans her Fannies, Phany, And it's great because I just do impressions of her all, and they absolutely love it. But she's got these really good catchphrases. So like every one of her videos, she goes, "Hello, I bring to you." So she's got these lovely little ways of getting into her videos, and she's so funny as well,
Anybody you've tried to imitate? Or you can't just quite get yet?
Oh, Simon Cowell, I couldn't get him. Too deep. Far too deep. I just couldn't get him. And I was going to do him, and I wished I never said this. This is one regret I have from doing Britain's Got Talent. And this says, have you got anything planned for the final? I went, yes, I have, Simon. So the audience were thinking, oh, he's going to do Simon in the final. And I shouldn't have said that, because I should have, looking back now, everyone makes mistakes, and I think that's probably the biggest mistake I made on that joke, because everyone was expecting to do Simon. What it was, I thought I would get away with it by doing a, like a take me out routine. So you've got like the people on a load of girls with buzzers, like they haven't take me out, and so you've got Paddy McGuinness going, single man, reveal yourself, right? And then Simon going, my name's Simon and I'm from London. And I thought I'd get away with that. And then they go, girls, are you turned on or are you turned off? Do-do-do-do, choo-choo-choo. And they all buzz him off. So it's like roles reversed. But the producers just went, you can't, his voice isn't right. So then I had to really rewrite my set, And then I had a migraine. I don't know whether that was to do with stress or whatnot. Have you had a migraine before? Yeah. They're horrible, aren't they? I couldn't even lift my head out the covers. It was awful. The doctor come and it was like touch and go whether I was going to do it, But fortunately I did. I was God knows what they give me. They were pumping me full of all kinds of drugs. I watch it back and I go, wow, how did I get through that? You know what I mean? It was so much fun. And I just love doing that show as well, because Ant and Dec are the loveliest people. And when I found out that Ant wasn't well, I was like, I really hope he pulls through, because they're national treasures, aren't they? I say this in my act. I say about Ant and Dec, they're just brilliant at everything. But even if they weren't very good, people would forgive them because they're so lovely. Like Ant and Dec could be managers of the England football team. Can you imagine that? That's right. So welcome back to the changing room where we're about to pick the starting 11 for the World Cup qualifiers. So here we go. Joe Hart, it's not you.
You don't stop, do you?
No, they just come in my head and then I start doing them,
Not that I'm complaining at all.
But it's mad because people say to me, have you ever done any impressions of people and then met them? Or has anyone been offended by any of your impressions? Diane Abbott blocked me on Twitter because I was doing impressions. I was doing these videos called the Weekly Posthill. So I was doing stuff about current affairs. Well, obviously, she kept coming up. Donald Trump kept coming up. Obviously Brexit. So I was doing Farage all the time. And I met Nigel as well. And I did ask him. I said, what did you think about my impression? He said, well, I don't think it sounds like me, but, it's just one of those things, isn't it, But a lot of people don't. You know, when you do an impression of them, they don't think that that's how they sound. You know, it's really strange. But he was lovely, and he bought me a pint, so I thought, oh, you know.
What performers then did you watch growing up?
Do you know what's funny? You should say that. Alistair McGowan was one of me heroes. Chubby Brown. I've always thought Chubby was funny. You know, I mean, the thing is, whether people love Chubby or whether they hate him, what you got to remember is the man brings out a new show every single year. You know, and he's just prolific. He's a superb piano player. He's just such a talented man, and I think people forget that when they try and just have a go at him, you know. And if people are offended by what he does, well, just don't go and watch him. You know what I mean? That's what I say about it, you know. And I think he's such a great comic, and he's always made me laugh. Jasper Carrott was another one. I mean, I remember when I was a kid and I watched Victoria Wood, and it was late at night and I shouldn't have been watching it because I had to be up for school the next day. I must have been about 11. And, no, I was younger than that. I must have been about 10. And, you know, I was trying to laugh as quietly as I could, but I just couldn't control myself because she really made me laugh. You know, I can't remember what the routine was she was doing. She was doing a routine about, if I remember rightly, about this couple who were addicted to sex and they had to sleep at their in-laws. And obviously they're in separate rooms, and the way she painted the picture of the story was just beautiful. And she's another excellent pianist, you know, just brilliant with her songs and stuff like that. So she was another one. And then, like I say, I've always liked Jim Davidson, Lee Evans as well. I've always loved Lee, you know. And I remember when I used to when I was at school, like everyone would gather round, and I would just do a clip from his recent video. And I would know it word for word. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, you know, I started doing all the stuff, you know, but I mean, obviously I can't say a lot of it now because, you know, the swearing and all that stuff. Do you know what I mean? Because it was every other word. But, you know, and I'd have the kids around me going, oh, yeah, he's doing the Lee Evans bit, you know. And what I'd do is I'd pick each day of what routines I would do for people, and it was great, you know, in PE as well, in the changing rooms, you know, do us a bit of Alan Partridge. Michael, stop getting Bond wrong, you know. And I would just it was just crazy, you know. But Lee was always my favourite. I remember one routine that Lee Evans did. Well, I mean, there's loads of stuff that he's done that's just makes you laugh uncontrollably. Do you know what I mean? It was just like the one where he was talking about, yeah, you know, when you're with your wife and there's that public argument that you do, you know, and you'll go to her like that, shut up. She's like, no, I will not. Shut up. Shut up. No, I will not. Shut up. He's going to hit me. He's going to, like, the way he just, if you look at the material written down, it's not funny, but the way he performs it is just beautiful, you know. So he was another one. Lee Evans, I loved him. Most recently, Michael McIntyre. I love Michael. He's so articulate, you know, the way he explains each observation, the movement. I'm loving the fact that I'm doing the face and I'm doing the movements, and you can see this, but people listening can't. Yeah, I love him. I just think he's just, you know, when you watch someone and you're thinking, I didn't think it was possible to become that good. You know, and I just think that one Michael McIntyre is just incredible. Jimmy Carr's great. I love Sarah Millican as well. She's one of my favourites. Love her pet. You know, there's loads of comic. But, you know, there's the other... I worked with Milton Jones, right? And I don't normally do an impression of him because he's a bit obscure, you know. He's famous enough for people to know who he is, but he's a bit obscure, you know. And I said to him, do you mind if I do an impression of you tonight? Because obviously I'm on before you, and obviously everyone knows that you're the headliner of the evening. And he was really, he went, yes, no problem, you know. So I went on and I done him, and I came off and I went, that impression didn't go as well as I thought. And he just looked at me and he went, maybe, because I haven't been on yet, you know. But the way, his eyes and everything, the way he talks, and I'm going, this is brilliant, you know.
So when you're doing your research on these people then, do you find yourself watching the same routines over and over again to try and get the mannerisms as well?
Yeah, I think a lot of people who I do are people who I watch a lot, you know, and some people you just, they're either in the news and you just can't help but, you know, I mean, when I first heard Jacob Rees-Mogg's voice, I just thought he is gold for an impressionist. Because what I genuinely find with Jacob Rees-Mogg is the fact that I did not think it was possible to be that posh, if I may say so. And I just thought to myself, there was one particular sentence that Jacob Rees-Mogg said, and I wasn't sure he was actually speaking English. I thought it was Latin or something like that. Because he is just... And you know, when you're listening to someone, you're thinking, even Prince Charles isn't that posh. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, that must have been elocution lessons 101 to speak like that, you know. Yeah, some people just come out at you, and you've just got to, you know, they're just in the set, you know.
How long did it take you to nail Trump?
Well, do you know what? Funny story this, right? So, my agent at the time called me up, and she says, can you do Donald Trump? And I says, no. I said, I don't do any politicians. Obviously, it's all changed now, do you know what I mean, since Brexit and everything. I don't do, you know, because I thought you can split an audience with politics. But anyway, she says, well, look, you've got a week to learn him, you've got an audition. I went, right, okay. So I've turned up at this audition and, you know, nailed the impression. But the thing is, it was, I had a week to learn him. So all as I was doing was watching Donald Trump, impersonating Donald Trump, watching Donald Trump, impersonating Donald Trump. Well, my missus was driving me, so you can imagine I'm in the car. Do you know, we need to make America great again. Right, okay, play it back. We need to make America great again. China, China. You know, there's key words that he says, and I was doing her head in. I thought she was going to leave me at one point because she was just like... But not only that, for the audition, I had to learn this rap, right, which was for Sky News. I got the gig, and it's on Sky News. And the rap, I'll do the first verse for you. This is how wordy it is. So it's in a boxing ring, and it's Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton, right? So bell goes, and then there's me. That's right, that's me, TAUMP. Into politics now, forget reality TV. Got beautiful hands, wealth and power, and all the pretty ladies like to climb the Trump Tower. Build a wall so tall for you all to see that nobody at all can build a wall like me. So don't be insecure, I'm just better than you. And if you're lucky, I'll let you see my giant IQ, right? So there's not only the fact that you got to learn the voice, you got to remember all that, you know. It was like doing Panto again, you know. When you do like in Panto, you do the word scenes, and you got to remember what he's just said. And it's like Bobby Davro's wonky donkey routine. I think it's brilliant. I remember watching him do that. And Bobby in Panto, by the way, it's a masterclass to watch. You know, he's an old friend of mine, Bobby Davro. I stay at his house quite a lot, and we sit in his kitchen, and we do impressions all the time. And whenever I do him, he says, "Don't say that, that's dreadful." Right, so anyway, me and Bobby... So anyway, here's a story for you, right? So I got to know Bobby through... he'd seen me on Britain's Got Talent, and he sent me a message, and I thought, oh, lovely's that. Do you know what I mean? And we became friends. I went and met him, and I watched... He was in a play called Not a Game for Boys, I think it was called. It was in London. And it was about table tennis. And I thought, oh, I wonder what this is about. But it was brilliant. Really, really good. Bobby's a really good actor as well, you know. I was very surprised to see how good of an actor he was, you know, because everyone knows him as, you know, the funny man from the telly, and, you know, the comedian, the impressionist, and he's a great actor. So I watched that. That was really good. And we've just become really good friends ever since. Anyway, a couple of months on, we were sort of keeping in touch, and me missus got me tickets to go and see Billy Connolly for my birthday. Well, she couldn't go. So... Anyway, a friend of mine, Paul Eastwood, he was busy. I said, do you want to come? And he said, no. He said, I'm on a cruise. I went, right, no worries. So then I asked Bobby, and I thought, I wonder if he'll come. Because we just sort of started becoming friends then. And he went, when is it? And I told him, he went, I'd love to come. He said, oh, absolutely. He went, I'll get you dinner. If you want, I don't have to give you money for the ticket. He said, but I'll take us out for dinner. I thought, lovely, even better. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, we watched Billy Connolly, and it was a masterclass. Absolute masterclass. And his opening line was, because he's walked on, and he got a standing ovation when he first walked on, and Billy Connolly went, you're only doing that because I'm ill, right? And I thought that was just, wow. You know, just brilliant. He just says what people are thinking a lot of the time, Billy. You know, that's what I love about his comedy. So we've watched the show, absolute masterclass in comedy. Bobby goes, come on, we're going to go and meet Billy Connolly. I went, how do you know Billy? He went, you'll see. And I thought, I've got no recollection of them working together or anything like that, do you know what I mean? But then I can imagine they might have been in the same circles now and again, you know. So, anyway, we've gone backstage, and my heart is beating faster than it's ever beaten. Because you are meeting the god of comedy, in my opinion, you know. Like, Billy Connolly's someone who's always made me laugh. Sorry, he's in the list of, you know, when I was talking about the other people, you know, with Lee Evans and people like that. Billy's always made me laugh. So, anyway, we're going into the dressing room, and there he is, the shrine of comedy, Billy Connolly. But before then I'm going, Bobby, how do you know him? How do you know him? You'll see. Didn't tell me. So we went in backstage and Billy goes, Bobby Davro, the bravest man I know. I thought, what's Bobby done that's brave? Do you know what I mean? He says, the only man who was brave enough to sit next to Salman Rushdie in a restaurant is still alive. Right? Apparently what happened was, he was out having dinner. Because he was very good mates with Jerry Rafferty and all them, wasn't he? So they were all having dinner, and Salman Rushdie was there. There was 4 empty seats next to Salman Rushdie for very obvious reasons. Bobby felt sorry for him, so he went and sat next to him, just goes to show how lovely Bobby is. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and Bobby went to Billy. He went, this is Danny Posthill. He's a quite impressionist. And Billy looked at me and he went, do you know that's something I've always wanted to be able to do? And I was like, wow, And people say to me, did you do the voice to him? I was like, no, I didn't dare. Because I thought if he didn't like it, you know what I mean? But I tell a different story when I do my stand-up. Because obviously, when you do your stand-up, you make them extra little exaggerated points up to make it sound funnier. Do you know what I mean? And Billy says that, I lie for a living. It's true, isn't it? But yeah, that was one of the most incredible moments of my life, really, just meeting him, and the fact that he was so lovely as well topped it off, because we were talking about it when we, about meeting your heroes. I tell you, another hero I met was Gaza. It's like, have you met Gaza before?
Yeah.
It's like it's like you meeting your best mate, isn't it?
Yeah, he's a lovely guy.
He's so approachable. He's just so it's my first gig with Gaza, right? And he goes to me, so I see him walking on the corridor, and he spoke to me first. I was like, oh my God, it's Gaza. What am I going to say to him? Do you know what I mean? He went, hello, son. He said, I tell you what, man. He said, I thought you were fantastic on Britain's Got Talent. He says, good to see you've still got a head full of skin, So, and I thought, you just feel relaxed in front of him then. You know what I mean? And I went to him. I said, it's funny. I said, I was waiting with Colin Henry last night. Oh, well, yeah. Well, send Colin me love, like, you know what I mean? I said, when Colin says to me, because I told him I was working with you tonight, he says, he asked me what gag I was going to open with. So anyway, I've told him, went straight over his head. Gaza went, aye, that's great, that man, I'm using that off you, like, you know what I mean? Because everyone remembers that goal, don't they? Euro 96, he just went boom. So I've worked with Gaza like 3 times, and then I played football against him as well. Which was just incredible, because he winds you up, he winds people up, like he was going to me, Britain's Got Talent, load of shite and all that, you know what I mean? When they've got a corner. But it was incredible because, like, you've got, when we played that game, it was the Pavel Cup. Pavel Sernacek died sadly, so it was to raise money for I can't remember what charity it's for. Steve Wraith runs it. Steve Wraith? I think everyone knows Steve Wraith's on there. So he organises it, and he does a fantastic job. And he gets like entertainers versus ex-pros, which is never fair. Do you know what I mean? Because you've got me in goal with a hangover, because it's generally to Sunderland. I've been out after my gig. Do you know what I mean? And I've got Pie Shop right back, KFC left back. You know what I mean? And then they've got like Keith Gillespie, Nobby Solano, Beardsley, and I'm thinking, come on, now just split the teams up a little bit, And I mean, I remember. It reminds me when I used to play Sunday League, because I used to play for Hartlepool, and then I got released. And my mate says, come and play Sunday League. And I lost interest in football then. I just thought, if I didn't make it, there's no point in me pursuing it. So anyway, his sister was, come and play for us on a Sunday, mate. I went, yeah, nice one. I said, is any good? He went, yeah, we're all right. I said, where is that in the league? He said, 6th. I said, how many's in the league? He said, 6. I thought, oh, God, here we go. So anyway, I've played for them. We got beat 11-0 and I got man of the match. I was in goal, And I just thought, that's me finished with football. So the only football I play now is like every for the Pavel Cup, so that's fun. So yeah, that's another one of my heroes that I met. God, I don't think you've asked a question for about 20 minutes, have you?
It's fine. You talk away. It's your podcast, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
We'll go back to the beginning then. What was then your first introduction to theatre, as in going to the theatre?
I tell you, the first person I seen in a theatre. Oh no, well I've been to Pantos when I was a kid. And I love that quote Denise Welch said. She says that a child's first experience of theatre is a panto, And I remember I seen Little and Large when I was a kid. I tell you, one of the funniest people I ever seen in panto when I was a kid. I remember I went with my mate and his mum and dad. Was Keith Harris, and he got Cuddles the monkey out. do you know what? I've never laughed so much when I was a kid, you know, because it was slightly risque, wasn't it? You know what I mean? And he was just brilliant. It was just awesome to watch. So yeah, I'd seen who else did I see in Panto? I'd seen a few like over the years when I was a kid, but not enough to remember. But I do remember Keith Harris though, because just laughing so much at what he was doing it was comedy masterclass, you know. My first stand-up show I went to watch was Phil Cool.
It's a name from the past, isn't it?
Well, yeah, Phil Cool, the rubber face they used to call him, and I thought he was very good, but very, very slow, talks like that, don't he? Very, you know. And I'm thinking, how have you got a voice that's so Yorkshire, and you're so good at doing all these impressions, you know? And is he still going, Phil Cool?
I believe so. Not
Is he?
often,
He's still doing theatres and stuff like that.
I haven't seen him in years.
I haven't seen him, no. He was very good. Really, really good at what he, you know. Well, obviously, he was a superstar back in the day, wasn't he? I mean, he
Huge
was...
TV show.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah. And because I wanted to go and watch an impressionist live, I mean, when I seen Alistair McGowan live, that just blew everything out of the park. You sat there watching it just going, if I ever get this good, I would just be delighted. You know what I mean? He was just... But the fact with Alistair as well is each impression's about 30 seconds long. He doesn't make his impressions last. And to do 2 hours of doing, you know, impressions to that standard as well was just brilliant to watch, you know. So he's another impressionist I've seen live. Seen Jim Davidson live, seen Chubby Brown live. Obviously Billy. That was brilliant. One person I haven't seen live. However, I did see him in a a play with Sheila Hancock. Barking in Essex was Lee Evans. So that's the only time I've ever seen him perform live. But that was brilliant. He was brilliant in that. But I'd love to see him do stand-up. I'd just wish him, yeah, you know, Lee, make a comeback just for me, you know. So it'd be great to see him come back. But yeah, that's the people who I've been to see live, really.
Was it always comedy you wanted to get into?
Oh, comedy's my life. Can you tell?
Just a bit.
I've always loved... I've been to see musicals with Amy, and they've been very uplifting. One of the most uplifting musicals I've seen was Made in Dagenham. That was brilliant. Loved that. And obviously Wicked, I mean, you know, if you don't like Wicked, you don't like musicals as far as I'm concerned, you know. That was just incredible. But yeah, no, comedy's always been, you know... Because my missus is a dancer. And, you know, we went to watch... we were in New York in November, and we went to watch the Rockette show. Have you heard of that?
No.
At the City Hall. Is it called the City Hall? I'm making New York sound very British now, aren't I, to be honest. It was the Rockette show, and that was just all singing and dancing. It had a story to it. That was, you know, incredible. Loved that. But mainly, I wasn't looking forward to it, if you know what I mean, because it was just because there was no comedy in it. I was like, there's no comedy in it, I'm not going to enjoy it. I know it sounds a bit ignorant, but, you know, because I just love comedy so much. That's just...
What you're into.
And I love being on the circuit as well, because, you know, you can see up-and-coming talent coming up, and you see some of the guys, you know, and they've only been going 6 months, and you're going, wow, this guy's brilliant, he's going to be a star. You know, and it's great to be on the same bill with these guys. But at the same time, you can also work with people who've been going for years from the alternative days, and they're doing a comedy club with you, you know. So that's brilliant, you know. I think I'm just enthralled by it all.
You're still enthusiastic about it, aren't
Still
you?
enthusiastic, yeah. Well, that's what Davros says to me. He went, you know, he said, you're like a parrot learning all these new voices. He went, I need to sit down and watch people more. I says, yeah, but Bobby, come on, you know. I said, if I was you, I'd just... relax now. You've got nothing to prove. What have you got to prove? You know, you've had your own show on the telly. You know, everyone knows who you are. You know, I mean, he does... some of the voices Bobby does are... His Ozzy Osbourne's brilliant. I wouldn't even go near that after I've heard him do it. You know?
Do you feel like you've got something to prove when it comes to going out there on stage?
Every time. Because, to me, they've paid tickets to come and see a show. And I feel like, you know... I'll let them down if I don't, you know, give them the best performance that I can possibly give them. That's when I'm doing like a gig where people have paid tickets to come and see, like in a comedy event, but when it comes to corporate events and stuff like that, you just never know how them ones are going to go because they can be so difficult, and any act will tell you, you know. But the reason we do them is for the money, you know. The girls X amount of money on this, and you're like, oh, all right then, you know. But yeah, like I say, I think any performance you do, you always feel like you've got something to prove, even if I suppose you are at the top. You know, and I love the fact that Bobby still has that enthusiasm because he shouldn't have to, you know, looking at from an outside point of view. But I think as a performer, it's just in you, you know.
What was your first experience then standing up on a stage in front of people?
I was 11 and I got up on the karaoke and I sang Wild Thing. In my England shirt, like proper Brits abroad. Do you know what I mean? Because what I find is when you go to these like holiday destinations, we were in Magaluf at the time, so I was well suited with regards to the dress sense. You know, is you always get the karaoke family, don't you? Have you noticed when you go on holiday, you always get the family who've practiced all year because they know they've got their song that they're going to get up and sing. You know what I mean? Like the granddad will do My Way, the dad Mustang Sally. You know, the daughter, I mean, it used to be Celine Dion, Whitney Houston. Now it's like sort of Alexandra Burt, Leonie Lou, those type of songs now. Do you know what I mean? And then, like, the whole family, you know, you can just see they've been practicing. And it gets to the point by the end of the night, everyone's going, don't like them now. They're pros. You know what I mean? But I love karaoke still, though. I absolutely love it. Do you get up and do a bit?
I have been known to do a couple
Have you? Yeah.
Bits.
What's your party piece?
Probably What a Wonderful World, Louis Armstrong. Sung like Louis Armstrong.
What, so you do the impression?
That
is very good. I'm sorry, right? I've just done about, I don't know, 15, 20 voices, and you've just upstaged me with that one.
Sorry.
Get out the house now.
Right, see, shortest podcast ever. And did you include any comedy with it?
No, not really. I just used to, even now, I'll get up, right, and I'll go, do you know what? I'll get up and I'll do like a Tony Christie, or I'll get up and I'll do like, I don't know, I always challenge myself and see if I can do like certain people. But I remember the first time I'd ever done a talent show, I was 13 and I sang No Matter What, Boyzone, because that obviously involves impressions and doing the voices, do you know what I mean? And then ever since then, first experience of comedy was my French teacher talked me into getting up and doing a school talent show. This was when I was, 15, 16, and that was scary. Really scary. I mean, because I didn't know how to write comedy then. I was like, I'd wrote some of my own bits, but then there was a bit where I was like, oh, well, I've nicked that one off Chubby Brown, clean one. You know what I mean? But I think that the only bits where I wasn't nicking somebody's gag, I think it was just like, I would do an impression and hope I would get away with it. But all as I would do is I would just like say their catchphrase. There was no material there. You know what I mean? But and I won the talent show. And I thought, do you know where I could go somewhere with this? And then ever since then, I was like to me mum, I want to be a comedian. Daniel, don't be stupid. Get yourself a trade, you know. And I'm glad I've proved her wrong.
Did you get a trade in the end?
No.
You didn't
I went to college and I just didn't. This is how much I love the industry, right? I was in college and I was doing law. Media was fun. PE. And I was just like, I don't know why I'm here. And I remember... my mum come in, you know, when they do the parents evening, you know, after school, and you got parents evening, you know, all my mates are electricians and plumbers, and you know, they're all going out drinking. He's me, yeah, I've got parents evening tonight with me, my college teacher, you know. And I remember the Joss, she says to me, that's her name, Joss. I used to call her Diana Joss because she looked like Diana Ross. So I've always been childish, you know. And I remember she says to us, you know, well, what do you do in your spare time then? Do you revise? Because these results are showing that, you know, you're sort of lacking a bit and you're behind. And I went, I'm not going to lie, Joss. When I go home at dinner time, my main priority is to sit and watch Des and Mel. Because they just had comics on all the time, can you remember? And that's when I seen people like Billy Pierce. First time I seen Billy Pierce, I was like, wow, how is it possible to do that many gags? You know, he's just a gag machine. You know, and then he used to have Jethro used to be on there. It was just great because it was like, oh my, we're getting variety on at dinner time, you know. And sometimes I just used to skip college just so I could watch Des and Mel. I used to love that show. I'd wish they'd brought it back, you know. Des would still be up for it, do you reckon?
I think so.
Yeah, I reckon Des would still be up. And obviously Melanie Sykes. Yeah. We'll say no more to that because we've both got missuses, so...
No comment.
No comment. No. Or we could just cut that bit.
We could cut that.
Yeah,
we're not going to, but we're going to. So how did the Panto come about then with yourself?
Right, what it was, I was 18 and I'd auditioned for Kudos, John Conway, and he was doing this show called Clown Town around the holiday parks. And I only had like a little part in it. I'd done a couple of impressions and done... there was a gag we used to do, the radio gag. You've probably seen it in loads of pantos, where they stop the music and then they smash the radio up and then they can still play it and all that. So we done that gag. It was fun, and then we done a slosh scene at the end. That always went well. So that was the first time. And then I got offered a panto, not for Kudos because I was far too inexperienced then. I'd done a panto for Fame Factory Spotlight, Jerry Graham. I don't know whether you know Jerry. And it was literally... I'm glad I've done it because it taught me the craft of the industry and the fact that it's not all about going on stage, and it sort of taught me everything else about the industry, lugging the gear in, setting the stuff up. We were doing 3 shows a day in different venues, and it was all across South Wales and, in working men's clubs. I remember once, right, we've done this club, we were doing Cinderella, I was playing buttons, and I remember the concert secretary walked on, because, these are like proper... You go to South Wales, it's like the North East, It's like they could be the same places but with different accents, And I went in and, we've set all the gear up and everything. And the concert secretary walks in, he said, right, boys and girls, we're going to have Cinderella coming on in a minute. But before we do, let me tell you the story of Cinderella. I'm going, don't do that to them, they're about to see it! Oh, so for things like that, but the great experiences to have. And then the year after I'd done Panto with him, I'd done Gainsborough Arts Centre, and I played the Dame, so that was fun. And then after that, I was in Grantham for Douglas Goran. Do you know Douglas Goran anyway? No. So, and then after that, I didn't do Panto for a few years. And do you know what? I done Panto with Liam. God, when was that? It was for Dougie Chapman in 2000, and it was the Barrow in Fairness. So we done a week in Barrow in Fairness, then we done a week in Bromsgrove, and he was Buttons and I was playing Billy the Bailiff, and I done a little spot in the show, and I remember, and he was great as Buttons, and me and him got on really well, and I remember he got the review in. And he went, I can't wait to see the review, because he thought, Buttons, and this is all that we love the comedy in the show, especially particularly the impersonating talent of Danny Posthill, who played Billy the Bailiff. He was like, you bastard. Do you know what I mean?
Never read the reviews, they say,
no.
don't they?
Do you know what, right? Like, with reviewers with me, I just find them, a lot of them are just frustrated performers, and they're bitter. So what they do is they try and take it out on people who are really good, and try and ruin their career. And do you know what? Christina Aguilera said this. I seen a quote from Christina Aguilera. She says, don't value the opinion of reviewers because they stop you from taking risks. And that's so true. Because in order to go anywhere in life, you've got to take risks. And you sort of become apprehensive after you, he said I do this wrong, or he said I do that wrong. And it's like, let's give it one of them. Put it to one side, Have
the reviews ever affected you?
A couple of times, yeah. I remember I'd done the Time Journal, the Time used to be called the Time Journal Theatre, didn't it?
Yeah.
And he was sort of, it was like he was getting sly digs in at me. It was quite patronising. He said, Danny Posthill, who likes to do impressions, needs to learn that this is not a talent show and this is a production. And you can't just belt out voices all the time. And I'm thinking, hang on, who are you to tell me that I don't know the difference between what a talent show is and what an actual show is? Do you know what I mean? And I'm thinking, he's got something personal against me, this person who's wrote this, do you know? And after that, I just thought, do you know what? Put it to one side. It did affect me in a way, because I thought, well, does he not realise that I've done this since I was 16 on and off? When in actual fact I've been doing it well before I was on Britain's Got Talent, and he just thinks I'm a chancer who turned up and done some voices on the talent show and then went, you know what I mean?
give him the mic, tell him to get up.
Yeah. That's the thing, isn't it? Do you know what? Someone told me a story, right? There was a comic on a cruise ship, and he was struggling, and this girl shouted out, started heckling him and all that, saying he wasn't very good. And he said, well, come on then, you get up. And apparently she got up and stormed it. You'd be gutted, wouldn't you?
Maybe not.
Yeah, I know. So that's that really. But no, reviewers to me, I just, it's one person's opinion. If you're doing a theatre and you're doing 2 shows like Panto, you're doing 2 shows a day and everyone's loving what's happening, value their opinion because they're the ones who are paying to come and see the show. All those reviewers are marketing, but how many people read them? That's the thing. But I think it's mainly performers who read them. And they just go, oh, the Panto up the road, have you seen their review? Ka-ching, if they get a bad one, But then how do you know who knows who? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm a name dropping mentioning Liam, by the way.
No, Liam's a big listener to the podcast.
Is he? Yeah, lovely. Well, there you go, Liam. I've dropped your name in, mate. Yeah. And then after that, I'd done... Oh yeah, so I didn't do Panto for a few years because I was on the ferries as an entertainment manager. Then I was on a cruise ship as an entertainer. Then I was then after that I went out as an act, and that's when I started really getting into the stand-up stuff, and making a living as a comic. I wasn't doing it full-time professionally because I was still, doing the odd job here and there, working in an office and stuff to make sure that I could pay the bills. And then eventually I started doing Panto for Extravaganza, Richard Chandler and David Vickers. I tell you what, those two, right, are just... What I love about them two is their passion for the business. Everything is just so neat. Everything is so regimented. I mean, Richard as a director, wow, he's just... I wouldn't dare put a foot out of place in rehearsals with Richard. I was, and you would do something and he'd go... Darling, Mummy doesn't like that. That's what he'd say to you. Mummy doesn't like that, But he would do it in a fun way as well, so you weren't really intimidated. Because I can imagine some directors, you'd be intimidated by them, and it doesn't make you perform to the best of your ability. But yeah, that was fun. I'd done 3 years for them. I'd done 2 years in Stockport, a year in Middlesbrough. Yeah, and I just think with Extravaganza, their costumes and their sets is all handmade by David Vickers. That's incredible, isn't it? How we can do that. Such a talent. And then after that, I done Kudos in Northampton. And then I took a year out. And then I've worked for AJ Productions last year. And then doing Buttons and Cinderella. And this year I'm playing Wishy Washy and Aladdin. So...
Because you've gone from being Buttons to Dame.
Yeah.
To Dame, and then...
Buttons.
Back to Buttons.
Back to comic.
Back to comic.
It's really weird. It's good that you can play both parts, but it's when I started playing Buttons, I was in rehearsals, and the director Jackie, she went to me, "What are you doing that with your hands for?" And I was doing, when you play in Dame, you hold your wrist like that, obviously,
like a Les Dawson,
like a Les Dawson thing. It's like you're playing Buttons. I was like, "Oh, sorry, it's just a force of habit," And I remember when I first played Dame. I used to, when I was doing my makeup, and I'd look in the mirror and I'd sort of pull a face like where I'd pout, and it became a habit. And I was in the Caribbean with me mate because I went on a cruise with him. He's a comedian, Paul Eastwood, and I was looking in the mirror before we went out, and I was pouting. He went, "What are you doing?" I went, "Oh, sorry, mate." I said, "It's just a habit I've had since playing Dame. That's all, But Dame's so much fun to play. Comic's good as well. I'd probably like to go back to doing Dame though. I do miss getting in the frocks. I'm not going to lie.
How was your preparation for that? Not getting in frocks, but...
Well, do you know what? I played Dame for Jerry Graham, which was fun, but the people who taught me how to be a proper Dame were Richard and David. They really honed how I played it. They give me tips on where to stand, how to deliver me, because the delivery's so much more different as a Dame. And one thing I was struggling to find was my Dame voice. And Richard Chandler just said to me, "No, just keep your voice, but be a bit more mumsy." And I thought, well, yeah, he's absolutely right. Just play it as a bloke in a frock. And that's how a Dame, to me, that's how a Dame should be played, And it was, I really enjoyed it. And I think since I've started playing comic again, I'm now getting used to playing comic. But I've always thought to myself, ever since I started playing Dame, that I don't have that look for a comic anymore. I don't know, just the bald head just doesn't suit me. Like, I think someone who plays a comic to me is someone who's got a full head of hair and is, I don't know, it's really strange, you know, because it's someone for the kids, you know, the comic. Like, this, the comics to me, I'll give you an example. Obviously, Liam Mell's a very good comic. Ben Nicholas, someone like him, to me, that's how a comic should look. A Panto comic should look. That type of thing. He's got a full head of hair and he's just got the right look and silliness about him, you know. And that's why I thought to myself, well, I don't think I can go back to playing a comic because, you know, I'm so used to playing the Dame.
Your Dame look, then, where did that come from?
Richard and David taught me that, really. They taught me how to do the makeup. They taught me everything of how to be a Dame. And that's why I've got a lot to thank them for. You know, if I do play it again, I just slip into it. And I played Dame at the... sorry, I forgot to mention a Panto. I'd done the Time Theatre in Newcastle. And I played Dame Dotty Donut. That was fun. But then I played that and they didn't really have a lot to direct me with because I sort of knew what I was doing. And like I say, that was thanks to Richard and David. Charlie was great to work with because he's just a naturally funny person, you know. And yeah, we had a lot of fun with Charlie, actually. What I love about Charlie is you'll be talking to him. I tell you what, for a proper bloke, he knows his musicals, doesn't he?
He does.
You would not think it by meeting him, would you? You know what I mean? Because he's like, you know, he is a proper George. He's a proper bruiser. Like, it was funny because we're friends on Facebook and he put something on Facebook. He was playing golf one night and then he was playing snooker the next night. And I just commented when Charlie, you're just a proper bloke, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? And he just started laughing. But yeah, and he's got a good voice and all. Like, he'll randomly start singing a musical song and you're going, bloody, where did that come from? You know? But he was great to work with and coming up with ideas and stuff like that, you know. And he was just great to work with on stage because you knew you were in safe hands with him. I remember the last show we did. My mind just went blank. We've all had these moments on stage. And he basically had to tell me what had happened. And it was the ghost gag. And I was like, where? I tell you what, the worst line I've ever forgot on stage was in Stockport. And everyone forgets lines, which is fair enough. But not this one. Do you know what the line was?
What one?
Oh, no, it isn't. I forgot that. My mind just went blank on stage. I forgot that. And I was really concerned about my mental state of health at the time. I thought, why did I forget that? You know, but it's been all right since. We've been fine since, you know.
Do you find it quite gruelling being in pantomime?
It's hard work. Really hard work. I mean, it's the fact that you've got to be switched on for 2 shows, you know, and the fact that it's live and anything can happen, you know. It's not like you're going out and you're doing a script word for word. I suppose you are, but there comes a time where something can happen in the audience, something can happen in the room, and if you're the comic or the Dame, you've got to react to it, you know. And if you did, I mean, when I'd done the Time Theatre with Charlie, and you know, we were doing 3 shows a day on a Saturday, so you can imagine how tired you are on the last one. But you've still, I think the audience bring the energy back for you, you know, because the last show you're just praying you've got a good audience. Because you're thinking, if they're not a good audience, this is going to be hard work, you know? So, but yeah, it is very hard. I mean, I think if anyone's been on your podcast and told you that it isn't, has anyone said that it isn't hard work?
Everybody seems to be.
Yeah.
It's the hardest job in the business.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, I remember I was watching Paul O'Grady and he was talking about Panto. And Richard Hammond was on there and he was like, oh, all as you do is you prance around and this, that and the other. And Brian Conley give him a piece of his mind, and I thought, good for you, Brian. Do you know what I mean? Brian stuck up for us all. Because I tell you what, anyone, I don't care who you are, you could be an athlete. Panto is hard. Really, really hard work, you know. And when I went with Michelle Heaton, though, she'd be going to the gym in between. Like, she'd go to the gym and I'm going, I don't know how you do this, you know. She's a machine, though, Michelle. Absolute machine. You know, I've never known anyone like her. She was great fun to work with. And Matt Pagan from Calabro. That was such a fun season, that was. I really enjoyed it. The cast were just... You know when everyone in the cast just gets on? You know? And this is a funny story, this, because when I done the first day rehearsals, I thought, oh, I'll bring a bag of sweets in and does anyone want a sweet? Because that's like... It's nice, it breaks the ice, do you know what I mean? So there was one of the dwarfs, because we'd done Snow White, one of the dwarfs, Claire, and she was so lovely. And we got on like house on fire. And... one day I brought a packet of sweets in and I went to Claire, oh, do you want a sweet, Claire? And she looks up at me, right? She went, are you taking the mick? I went, what? And I'd looked down and bought a packet of midget gems, but I didn't realise. But every dwarf I've worked with, I've got such a great sense of humour. I suppose you've got to, because if you look at the script, you're going, whoa. A lot of small jokes in here.
It does, though, beg the question about, at the moment, people are being quite sensitive. How are you finding that affecting both Panto and your own stand-up as well?
I feel like sometimes I'm walking on eggshells when I'm doing my stand-up, especially when I'm doing Trump. I mention Trump in my act and people go, oh, and I'm going, oh, come on. Just accept the fact that he's the president. You know what I mean?
You can't get away from it.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing jokes about it. I'm not going to start doing... I'm not turning this gig into a political rally here. Do you know what I mean? I make a joke about the fact that, you could cut the atmosphere with a knife when you mention his name. And a lot of the material I do about Trump is... I don't particularly take the mick out of him, as I just say, what he's done and what... I say he's the only president America's ever had who looks like he's straining for a poo before he starts talking, Obviously, the listeners cannot see my face how I'm doing Trump right now, but he does look like he's straining for a poo. This one's going to be huge, So I try not to look at the politics of it all. But I know what you're saying. There is certain jokes that people frown upon. I was doing a comedy club in London and I started doing an impression of Diane Abbott, and there was a couple of people shaking their heads, and I'm going, "What are you shaking your heads for?" I didn't say it on stage because I thought I don't want to lose the art. I got on with the routine and I done it. But I just thought, why? I'm just doing an impression of somebody. And I thought, these people probably think it's racist to do an impression of someone who happens to be black. You know what I mean? And this is how far it's getting, I think, sometimes, with regards to political correctness. I think you should just be allowed to joke about everything and anything. What did Ricky Gervais say about it? He says, listen, just do whatever jokes you want. It's up to you whether you tell them or not. If they're offended, then they're offended. And it's like what have you seen that routine Steve Hughes does? The Australian comic, and he talks about people being offended. No. And he's like, well, you're offended, nothing happens. What do you do? Obviously, it spoilt your day a little bit for a couple of hours, but apart from that, you're offended. Nothing does happen, though, if you're offended, But the worst thing about it is these are the people who will complain about the show, and they'll say, oh, I want my money back for this, and because we give them their money back, other people go, oh, I can be offended now. You know what I mean? I think there's an aspect of that to it as well. And I think as well when people go on cruise ships or they go to holiday parks and stuff like that, I think they can use comedy as a way to get their money back on certain things, or way to get a couple of free drinks because they say they're offended by one of the jokes, or, I've seen that happen as well. It's crazy.
What's your favourite thing to do in a pantomime then? Slosh scenes or the song sheet, or...
Do you know what? Song sheet's my least favourite. Loads of comics love doing a song sheet. That's why I prefer playing Dame. I love coming on, doing my opening, doing the script. Slosh scenes are fun. Obviously very messy. Do you know one of the best routines I've done is the wall scene? I've done the wall scene with... because you feel like a bit of a stunt man, you know what I mean? It's like... I've done that with John Partridge. That was he was great to work with, John. Just such a professional. Really really good at what he did. Well, he's a West End Wendy, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? So he was fun to work with. But that routine when we done the wall, it's because of I think anything physical, really, because you see that reaction that it gets, and people absolutely love it. It's just falling over, isn't it? So slapstick, So that was my favourite routine I've ever done. That wall scene.
What is it about then, the song sheet you don't really like?
Do you know what? I don't like getting kids up. I don't like getting kids, and I didn't this year. Actually, I found a way of doing it. I just done the sides, and I don't know. Some comics love getting kids up, but to me, you just don't know what they're gonna do. You don't know what they're gonna say, and I'm just like, oh, just can we just do the show? You know what I mean? Can I get on with the song sheet? And can we just do the walk down? I just like going on doing the funny bits, and I just don't particularly like getting kids up. I don't know why. And also, there was one time I did it, and I did get kids up. I don't know, MacDonald had a farm, and there was this kid, and I think he had ADHD, and he was just all over the place. And you've got to control them, And I'm like, my main source of work really is comedy to adults. So I'm not really a kids comic. I can be obviously with Panto, because obviously you can add stuff in the script and routines and slapstick stuff. But when it comes to, child minding, I'm not very good.
You have to blame the ushers for that, won't you?
Yeah, blame the ushers, yeah. But they just think that you can do it. They just go, yeah, go on, but you'll be all right with buttons. I'm like, no, can you get this little off the stage now? Because he's doing me head in.
And what about the singing? Does it take its toll
I
on the
enjoy
voice?
singing. I like singing. It does take its toll on the voice, yeah. This year I done Bruno Mars. And wow, it's just because it's a high song and you're doing it every day. And each time you'd start doing it, you're thinking, here we go, is it going to work? And then you do the opening, like, if you ever find yourself, and I've got it. Do you know what I mean? But it's just that's another thing, your voice. I live off Jakeman's Honey, Lemon, I just live off all that when I do Panto. You just see, like, Holland and Barrett know when I'm doing Panto, because here he is, yep, he's about to start rehearsals. I spend about 60 quid in Holland and Barrett, just on everything, multivitamins to make sure, because obviously it's, you're just in close proximity with everybody, so you're going to catch something,
And your voice is your business.
Oh, especially doing loads of impressions as well. There was one routine we did, which was fun, where I had the countdown music on and I had to do 10 impressions, and Cinderella had to guess who the impressions were. So firstly, you've got to get the timing right for it. And secondly, you're thinking, I hope I can do this. And they were high and low in different ones, do you know what I mean? And I think because it's on your mind and you're going, I've got to be on my top of my game, and I've got to make sure my voice is right for these certain. But then at the same time, I love socialising with the cast as well. So you're going, should I be out tonight because we've got 2 shows tomorrow and I've got all these voices to do in the show. Will I be? Yeah, I'll be fine. And then you're doing the show and you're like, I was fine, I can go out again tonight. And then the next day you're like, I better not go out tonight because, you know what I mean, I've over-egged the pudding a bit here.
Where's been your favourite audience?
Do you know, I loved the Plaza in Stockport. I thought it's just such a beautiful theatre, and I think the way it's set and, the acoustics and everything in there with the laughter, because the laughter just comes back at you and it's just lovely. So that was probably the best auditorium I've played, I suppose. But I think any Panto audience, generally they're up for it, aren't they? Apart from Boxing Day, when the dads are like, I should be out watching the football. And I feel their pain, I'm not going to lie. I want to be out watching the football and I've got to sit in here. But what I love is at the beginning of the show, they're just not interested. And by the end, they've loved it. Because it feels like, your challenge has worked. Your challenge has succeeded.
And what about internationally? Because you travel all over the globe performing.
Oh, do you know what? I done a gig in Singapore, and they were all Australian. And it was for petrol stations in Australia. But these companies, they've got so much, it goes against their business, doesn't it? So what they'll do is they'll think, right, we'll put this massive corporate event on. So they wanted me to go out there as Donald Trump, do a little stand-up set as Donald Trump, and present some awards. So I'd done Donald Trump the first day in this conference, and then I had 2 days off, and then I'd done a gig. So I'd done 10 minutes of stand-up, and then I done, just presented the awards. And I was worried because I thought, but what I found was Australians have got the same type of sense of humour as we have, but they're just more brutal. Like, it's darker, and they are less caring when it comes to political correctness. So they're brilliant audiences. You can more or less say what you want with Australian people. I just think they're great, and they're just up for it. However, they're also obliged to join in whenever they want. That's the only thing. But apart from that, it was great, I just really enjoyed. And this was a corporate event. It was multicultural, it was a corporate event, and they just didn't seem to care. The managing director, he went, there's a guy, mate. I said, yeah, I'm good. He went, listen, don't worry about going out there and, upsetting people, because if you upset people, if you upset somebody and they come and tell me, then they've upset me. So just say what you want tonight, mate. And I'm just thought, oh my God, I love you. You're class. So yeah, that was fun. Out in Singapore. Have you been to Singapore before?
No.
Beautiful place. I tell you what I found as well is there's so many weird rules. Apparently, if you sing in the street, you get fined $100 or $150 or something. But then my first thought to that rule is, who's actually done that before in order to receive that fine, unless you're a busker? You know what I mean? They would think you were mental if you randomly just started belting out Charlie Richmond. Imagine Charlie Richmond. You're just having a conversation with him and he belts out a random musical, gets fined $150, you know.
He can afford it with all the adverts he does.
Well, yeah, exactly, I know.
Yes, Charlie.
Yeah.
He'll be listening.
Yeah, so they're like really strange rules, but it's a really clean place. Really clean place and a beautiful place as well. And everyone's just so I just felt really safe out there, you know. But the whole thing of it was that Donald Trump had a meeting with Kim Jong-un in Singapore, didn't he? So they were trying to get a Kim Jong-un impersonator in there as well. And I thought that would have just been brilliant. Especially if they're so open about what we could say to each other, you know. And we could just, you know, do whatever jokes we wanted to each other. Then, you know, that would have just been great. Australian people, I love you all, Australian people. You're fantastic.
We get quite a lot of listeners over there.
Do you really?
We do.
Oh, love the
And
Aussies.
for some reason, North America.
North America, really?
6.9% when I last looked.
Wow. Do you know what, right? That's another thing, is there was talk about Panto going over to the States, wasn't there? Going over to America. Do you think it would work in America?
With a few tweaks here and there.
I
They're
think it
becoming
would.
more receptive to the British sense of humour.
Yeah. I find that, because they don't get sarcasm, do they?
No, but with Ricky Gervais, they've had to.
Yeah, I know. Especially at the Oscars.
He's not going to change.
Wow, I know. Yeah, but I think Panto would be brilliant, you know. That could be they could send us out and, you know, start a trend off for them. I'd be quite happy to go to the States every Christmas. Be in New York over Christmas, that'd be lovely, you know.
Well, it's happened in London. Again,
Well, yeah.
It's come back.
Well, the Palladium Panto, you know, I'm good because I've never been to see that show, but everyone who's been to see that show, they just said it's incredible. But then you've got Paul Zerdin on there, who is just, you know, such a polished performer. He's such a nice guy as well, Paul. I remember watching him like on the Royal Variety when I was a kid. You know, not that I'm trying to make him sound old or anything, because he's not, and he's a very handsome man, if I'm honest with you. You know, in fact, I look older than him, if I'm honest with you. But yeah, no, he's just. Every time I've seen him, it's just so slick, isn't it? You know, and I can imagine how he would be in that Panto. You know, just be awesome.
Do you get to go and see many Pantos?
No, not really. I think sometimes I do. Oh, you can go and see this one, you can go and see that one. Before I start a run. But then at the same time I go, I don't want to see it just in case it's brilliant. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, you know, and then I'll start comparing what I do to, you know, because I've got this idea and, you know, I've seen them do this and I'm not sure whether mine's going to work now and all that stuff, you know. So there's that self-doubt that puts, you know, that goes into your head. But, yeah, I mean, I go and see Bobby when I can, you know, because he's my friend and I know he's just going to be brilliant anyway. And he just knocks it out the park every single time, you know, and it's just a masterclass to watch. There's a couple of people who I'd love to see do Panto. I'd love to see Billy Pearce. I've never seen Billy Pearce do Panto, but I would love to see him from what people have told me. Obviously, Brian Connolly, you know, but Brian Connolly, you know, when I was a kid, he used to make me laugh when he was on the telly. Yeah, and there's just a few people who you know, as a Panto performer, people say to me, you need to watch these people. Danny Adams, I haven't seen him do Panto, but I've heard I need to see him. Do you know what I mean? I mean, if you've had a residency somewhere for so long, you know, and you are putting bums on seats because of that, you know, it just explains it all, doesn't it?
Could you see yourself in that position, staying resident in one place?
I don't know, because I like to move on, me. I'd probably get bored. I'm always a big fan of change. I think I'm one of these people. I'm never satisfied with what I've got. I always want something more. You know what I mean? Like, so my aim is to get on, like I'm doing Edinburgh this year, I'm doing the Edinburgh Festival. And I'm hoping to get, you know, a nice following, get a tour. And then after that, I'm like, right, I've had a nice tour. And then I'd want more. Even if I'd done arenas, I would want more. I just think it's the mentality of a performer who wants to succeed. You know, I don't think it's a bad thing, because I think it's very ambitious.
Vegas?
Do you know, Vegas would be great, but obviously I'd have to... You know, you've said that to me. The first thing that was going through my head was, I'd have to learn loads of American people now. Do you know what I mean? It's like a bit of a chore to do, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, that'd be amazing. It would be great.
How do you find the cruise ships then? Because obviously you've got different audiences from all over the
Yeah,
world.
I've only done 1 or 2 cruises, and I'm not going to lie, they weren't really for me. My first show went really well. My second show wasn't as good because I felt like I was scraping the barrel with material. And because a lot of my stuff I'm doing now is all on the comedy circuit, that material is not really suited to cruise ships, you know. But the comedy circuit, I suppose, gets you in the right direction. It gets you to more TV and stuff like that, you know. And the Edinburgh route, that's where I'm hoping to take now, you know. But what I'm loving is the fact that there's alternative comics who are doing Panto now. You know, it's not just all, you know, mainstream comics who tell gags doing Panto. You've got alternatives who do Panto as well, which I think's great. I think it's become more popular than ever now, Panto.
It's cool.
It's really cool.
It's always been cool. But
But
slipped
more
out of
recently
fashion.
it's just become, like, I don't know what it is. It's just become more, like, trendy. I think there was a time, wasn't there, where you got these Ponzi performers who'd go, "Oh, no, darling, I don't do pantomime," you know what I mean? And now they're doing it. Like, I was surprised when I found Nigel Havers was doing Panto, but then I suppose it was at the Palladium, so, you know.
He was doing it well before that.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Many a time he was a baddie.
Yeah.
And now he's just I don't know the best way to describe him, really. An enthusiastic actor is the best way to describe his character.
Yeah.
And it's a lovely little part he
Yeah,
plays.
I
It's the
can imagine.
same
I can
part,
imagine he's fantastic.
And you just not now, Nigel.
Yeah,
But they've made this little character, this little niche for him,
Yeah.
and I think he's going to be in that for quite some time.
Yeah. But now people are going, you know, no, I want to do. I feel like people want to do it now, you know, as opposed before they were like, oh, people thought it was beneath them, you know. And I think a lot of people who thought it was beneath them, you know, the type of people you'd sit in a bar with and go, "So, what, Panto's beneath you, is it, mate?" "Yes, darling, I don't do pantomime." "All right, so what are you doing now? Because I've just done 2 shows and they were great, and, you know, what are you doing now?" "Well, I'm awaiting my agent to ring me back for an advert." Do you know what I mean? You're just like, well, that explains it all, doesn't it? Just go where the work is, mate, you know? I think
But it's fun.
It is, it's fun. It's great fun, you know? And also, I've met loads of great friends through doing Panto as well, because you're in such close proximity with them and you have such a great time with them. It just, you have those memories that last forever, you know?
Right then, let's ask you the question then about Britain's Got Talent. What made you want to go for Britain's Got Talent?
Well, I was doing gigs for a guy called Jeff Whiting. He's got Mirth Control comedy clubs, and I still do gigs for Jeff. He sent me an email and he said, "Look," he said, "there's a producer from Britain's Got Talent. It's going to be in the audience at the Hen and Chickens Comedy Club in Islington." I says, "Right, okay." So I've turned up and I've done the gig, and it went really well. Producer rings me straight away. "Right, we're going to put you straight in front of the judges." I went, "Lovely." So anyway, he rings me. He said, "Well, where do you want to go? We got Manchester. I said, "Well, Manchester would probably be best because it's closer to me." "No worries." Anyway, he rings me back and he says, "Oh, can you do Edinburgh?" And I'm like, "That's a bit far." "Don't worry, we're going to fly you there. We're going to put you in a hotel." I'm going, hang on, something, you know, this is a bit, is this fixed? So anyway, flew me there, stayed in the hotel, you know, great time. Done the audition, and well, I went out. This is what happened. This is the unedited version of what happened. So I walked on, and Sam says, "How are you?" I said, "I'm good, Sam, and how are you?" He says, "Yeah, I'm very well." And he said, "What's your name?" I said, "Danny Posthill." And he said, "That sounds like a pop star's name, that." And Amanda Holden went, "Is that what you're going to do for us?" I said, "Oh, no." I said, "I'm an impressionist." And Sam says, "Is that what you do for a living?" I said, "Oh, yeah, I do you know, the after dinners, I do comedy clubs and wherever that'll pay me, you know." And he says to me, you know, what would mean more to you, doing the Royal Variety or the money? I said, "Well, at the minute, the money, because I want to buy an house." So that got a bit of a laugh, you know what I mean? And he went,
honest.
"Yeah, very honest, yeah." So, and then he said, "Well, I don't know whether you noticed, but I actually did the Royal Variety performance this year." So then David Walliams put it straight in. "Simon, you know, I actually hosted the Royal Variety performance. You said 7 words and introduced on Calabro. Do you know what I mean? There's a difference." So then I started laughing, and he didn't like that because he takes himself a bit seriously. So he went, "Well, anyway, Danny, best of luck." So I did my bit. I done Billy Connolly. I done John Bishop, Barlow, Beckham. Finished on Michael McIntyre. And when I done Michael McIntyre, I went, who also hosted the Royal Variety Performance, Simon. Yes, hosted. Me and David hosted the Royal Variety. Well, that brought the place down. He hated it. He absolutely hated it. And I'm thinking, oh, what have I done? So, anyway, comments, brilliant. Comes to Simon. Well, it was all right. Everyone went, boo. He went, well, he said, why did you do Billy Connolly? And Amanda went, because we're in Scotland, Simon. I said, thank you, Amanda, because we're in Scotland, Simon. Next question. I thought, oh, that was a bit cheeky. So, and then he had the ump on me then. And he went, well, I didn't think your Beckham was any good. He said, I think anyone can do him. So I went, will you do it now then? Everyone started going, do it. So the audience were on my side, right? So then he just went to me, look, he said, I thought it was a bit dated, if I'm honest with you. You know, he said, I've seen Billy Connolly, you know, people do him a lot, and I think you need to raise the bar and this, that and the other. But prior to going on to the audition, the producer told me to do, he says, right, he said, do Billy Connolly, John Bishop, Gary Barlow, David Beckham, Michael McIntyre, then do Jimmy Carr, then do Alan Carr, then do Sarah Milken. And he gave me all these, and I'm going, no, I'm not paying him. I went, yeah, all right, no worries. But I went on doing enough to get through, because then I could save these other impressions for my semi-final. So, anyway, obviously he went, yeah, well done, Danny, you got 4 yeses and this, that and the other. But that was all cut out. The bit I had banter with Simon. Interesting that, isn't it?
Funny, isn't it?
Really funny. And then when I done the semi-final, did you notice he had a sly dig at me and he went, I thought you were losing the audience halfway through. And David looked at him and went, and I was like, he's probably trying to get one up because of what happened on that first audition, you know? The little list. Are we allowed to say this? I mean,
yeah, you can say whatever
yeah,
you
this
want.
is fine.
You're not under contract.
This is fine.
No,
No, I'm not. No, exposing Britain's Got Talent. And then obviously I'd done the final, and then after that it was just like, I do feel like you're in a bit of a prison with it though. Like when we were in the studio, they wouldn't let you out, but I got on really well with the security guard, right? And I went, look, mate, I'm just bored and I'm nervous and I've just got all these emotions. I couldn't nip to the pub for a couple of beers because this is a semi-final. He went, yeah, I'll just tell them you want the toilet, but, you know, be quick. So I thought, right, I could do with a beer. So I went in this bar, and it's packed. And I'm thinking, oh, this is the audience that are probably coming in. And they just stopped and looked at me. And I thought, oh my God, they've seen me first audition. They know that I'm going to be on this semi-final. So I could hear my own footsteps walking up to the bar, right? It was like embarrassing. So I went, oh, can I have a bottle of Desperado, please? They went, yeah, no worries. And she looked confused, the bar lady. This woman comes up to me. I went, hey, darling, you all right? She went, this is a private party. Could you please leave? I thought, oh, this is the first time. I thought this was going to be the first time I've been recognised for being on the telly, you know? And yeah, she says, a private party. Could you please leave? No, I went next door. Found another place next door, you know? But it was stressful. There's a lot of actors who I know get asked to do it, and I can see why they won't, because they've obviously got a nice steady career. But at the time, I was like, I didn't know where I was going with my career, and I thought, well, this could be a good platform and a good opportunity for me, you know. And it has. It's, you know, it's paid off massively for me, and I'm delighted with the outcome.
The
you know,
YouTube hits as well, I'm sure, helps.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. And to me, like, people go, have you made it since you've been on Britain? No, I haven't. To me, it's the first step of the ladder to get to, you know what I mean, to get to the next level, which to me is like, you know, try and get out on tour, try and get some bits of telly, and all that stuff. Really.
Are you glad you did it?
I am, yeah. I was, you know, debating whether to do it or not when I first, because I was just worried that I was going to go on there and they were going to make a fool of me, because I have seen that happen to good acts. And it's such a shame. There's a guy called Andy Davis he's a brilliant vocal impersonator. And, you know, they edited it to make him look like he does a brilliant Bee Gees, and he done an impression of the Bee Gees. And they edited it so there was silence after he'd done his thing and no one clapped. When in actual fact they did clap, and they clap every time I've seen him do a gig. And I thought, oh, that's disgusting. Do you know what I mean? So I was worried. I was worried more than anything about that. But fortunately, you know, I came across well on it.
Did they look after you afterwards?
Not really.
No.
They got me a couple of gigs, but then after that, because, well, what it was, I was up in arms with them about signing this contract, that they get 40% of everything that you earn, and I wasn't willing to sign it. I just said, look, I'm not having this, because there's gigs that I've already got in. Those gigs I was doing for like 150, 200 quid, and they wanted to take 40%. But then I was already paying my agent at the time 15%, which was Anne George. And Anne went, well, look, you know, they were up and this was whether I was going to actually do the show or not. There was loads of back and forth, like going forward, you know. And anyway, it must have went back to Simon, and this is, well, no, he's not signing the contract on these, you know, things I had in my contract where I've got the last say on material, and basically that thing where, you know, I don't want to be managed by anyone, I've got a manager. And they went, right, okay.
They backed down.
They backed down, and they got me on the show.
Well done, you.
I know.
Because I've heard some people have suffered a bit. Because
Yeah. It's ridiculous, really, because to me, we're the performers, you know, and we're the ones going out on the road, and we're the ones, you know, an agent. If agents are ripping acts off, I think it's disgusting, you know, because they just sit there and all they have to do is get up and jump on the tube and go to work. You know, bear in mind you've got to sell your act, and I understand all that. If you're managing someone, it's all to do with the marketing, and you know you're the one who's going to get them to put bums on seats and stuff. But when it comes to putting your act out for a fee, I done a gig once, right, and it was for a good amount of money. It was a corporate gig, and anyway, the guy said, "Was how much were you getting tonight?" And I said, "Oh, you know how much I'm getting? I'm getting X amount." He went, "Well, I've paid," and what he told me was he paid double. So this agent tried to rip me off. This wasn't nothing to do with Britain's Got Talent. This was another agent who I've recently got rid of. I don't want to mention any names.
No.
But I'm thinking that goes on in the industry. It's disgusting. You know, we're the ones who put all the hard work into what we do and go out and do it, you know. And then there's agents who doing that to us. I think it's horrible. It's you know. It's, what's the word I'm looking for? Exploitation. I think, anyway. That's my opinion on it.
what would be your advice to yourself if you could speak to your sort of 12, 15-year-old self? What would your advice be?
If you're going to get into being a comedian, and you want to be a successful comedian with regards to getting on telly, this is what I'd be saying to myself if I was 15 now. Is I would say, do the comedy circuit, hone your material, write your own stuff, don't do any stock gags if you can help it, and just do as many comedy clubs as you can and build your way up like that. Because I think sometimes, because I do both circuits, you see, I do the alternative and I do the mainstream, and I think some people frown upon the fact that I still do holiday parks and stuff, when to me it earns me a living, you know what I mean? If you can play both audiences, then great, but then certain bookers won't book you because of the fact that you do that. And I think it's politics, mate. It's politics, and that's the reason I would advise 15-year-old me now to just do the comedy circuit route, to get with an agent who is from that circuit, to get you on telly, to get you to put bums on seats, and to get you to sell out theatres. You know, that's the advice I would give. And then Panto will come along, because obviously if you've got that success, you know. But then at the same time, you when you do Panto, you need listen to the old boys, listen to these people. Even if you're going on, like, you know, if you're, I don't know, for example, you're a star, and you've never done Panto before, listen to that bloke who you think's brilliant. You're watching him in rehearsals and you're going, this bloke's done Panto for years and he knows exactly what he's doing. Just go up to him and ask him and just say, look, mate, can you help us out? Don't be ashamed, because there are so many people out there. I tell you what, there's a guy done Panto with, right? He's called Paul Arden Griffith, and he's a West End Wendy, he's an opera singer. And I remember watching him in rehearsals and I was just like, wow, you are incredible. And I picked his brains, and I think that's the best thing to do. Don't ever be afraid to do that. Because I think the first day rehearsals as well, when you're in a Panto, is all very, everyone's nervous and it's nerve-wracking, and, you know, you don't know what's going to happen, and you don't know what people are going to be like. You've got to do scenes with people you've never met before. But yeah, if you see someone's brilliant, just go and ask them and pick their brains and say, look, can you help us out on this bit, you know? Because at the end of the day, we're only human.
You said there about nerves. What do you find more nerve-wracking? A Panto audience, or corporate, or holiday camp, or theatre audiences?
I'd say now probably a holiday camp, because they're much more difficult for stand-up now. You know, I think it's the attention span, and I don't think it's the people's fault. I think it's the fault of the establishment, because you've got iPads, you've got phones, you've got people can watch anything whenever they want. So are they going to sit and listen to someone talking on stage for 45 minutes, and they can just go, I'll just go on my phone and watch this 2 minutes? You know what I mean? It's people get the phones out sometimes. You know, I think it's because you're in an environment which is not a theatre. In a theatre, it's great because you're in rows, and I think when you're sat in rows, it sets the standard, doesn't it? To you know what you're about to watch, and you don't feel obliged to get your phone out in a theatre because you're like, someone's going to give me a funny look if I do, and rightly so. You know, whereas in Aldi Cat, setting tables, people can just get up and go for a drink whenever they want, and you know. And I think that's what it is. I think it's because of the fact that you've got all these things now where you've got so much access to watch whatever you want, whenever you want. So it's difficult to have the attention span. I've done it myself. I've been sat watching a film with my missus, and I'll get my phone out and I'll go. And I'm not. It's not the fact that I'm bored. It's just force of habit, you know. So I think them type of in a holiday park, them type of environment's difficult. Comedy clubs are great because they're there to watch comedy. And they're told by the compere, don't be getting your phones out, you know, when the acts are on, and there's a certain amount of etiquette that you've got to have. But and you always have a better gig because the audience are more up for it. They know, you know, they shouldn't be doing this, they shouldn't be doing that. That because they're making the most of what they've paid for, you know. So what's the point in going on your phone if you're just gonna, you know? It's like when I go to the cinema, I never get my phone out because I think we'll have paid for it. If it's on Netflix, I'm going, oh well, it's free, so you know what I mean. And it's the same mentality if you're at a holiday park because you're thinking, well, I haven't paid to come in to watch the act. We'll see what he's like. Oh, hang on, I'm going to get on my phone for a bit, you know.
I think you've lost them.
Yeah, that's what can happen. So that they're probably the most nerve-wracking gigs for me, you know. Survival.
But the Panto audiences.
Panto audiences are great because what I love is the fact that you're seeing from a child up to a grandma being entertained, and they're all laughing and they're all having fun. And it's just a beautiful thing to see from all generations. There's no label put on people. Oh, well, this is their demographic, this is that demographic. Panto is everyone's demographic, and that's the beauty of it.
When we were getting set up for this interview, you said to me, can you sit this side of me, which is just to my left, because you said about hearing loss.
Yeah, I'm deaf in my left ear. I had a fractured skull when I was a kid. Yeah, it was touch and go, actually. My mum, they didn't ring an ambulance. My mum had to come and pick us up and take me to the hospital. You know, talk
How
about...
old were you?
I was only about 4 or 5. I was in nursery. What happened was I put my head through this basket and someone pushed me and I couldn't stop myself with my hands and I just cracked my head. So I fractured my skull. I cracked my head and my ear just went beep and it just left me deaf in one ear, which is interesting because I had 200 driving lessons because my driving instructor was deaf in his right ear. So can you imagine? He's trying to tell me how to do a 3-point turn and I'm going, sorry mate, what was that? What did you say? You know. And yeah, because people say to me, you know, how do you do impressions because you're deaf in one ear? I suppose I'm the only impressionist who's on mono. I did say to you, I think Joe Longthorne, so only because someone told me, I'm not taking that for gospel. But yeah, I think this right ear is better than any other person's right because I'm like, it's trained now to be used as it's used. But yeah, no, it's... I mean, it's fine. The only thing I do worry about is in about 20 years' time, and you know. But I think by then, with technology and everything, I'm an optimist. You see, I think it's going to be, you know, you probably have things out there. I mean, you can get hearing aids now that are just like. I mean, I don't want to use one yet. I want to sort of see how long I can go without having to use an hearing aid. But you can get ones that are just like, you know, you can't see them. They're microscopic. You know.
Was it tough though as a child growing up with hearing in one ear?
Obviously, if they were at my left side of me, it was hard. But apart from that, no, it was all right. I had a normal childhood, really, considering, you know, I would just have to say to the teachers at school, you know, can I sit near the front because obviously I won't be able to hear what you're trying to teach me. Yeah, that was it, really.
But it hasn't hindered with the impressions at all.
Well, I hope not. Everyone tells me they sound good, so you know. I mean, I just guess.
Booking you, aren't they?
I just do them and guess. You know what I mean?
How long does it actually take you from start to when you're actually ready to present it to people, introducing new characters and stuff like that?
Some people, right, I'll do, and I'll just have a stab at it. Just I'll be messing around in the house and I'll have a stab at it with Amy. And like the other day I was doing Paolo Grady, you know, and I just had a stab at it, and I don't normally do them. He's not normally in my set, and Amy went, "Oh, that's good, you should put that one in," you know. And I was like, right, okay. But I'd need to, I've just got the base there. I would need to hone it more, and I'd need to watch him more. So that's where you get the base. But all is it's a case of just watching people all the time for me. And then I think it's just a natural knack every impressionist has, where you just pick it up, you know, and you're like a robot to it. You're like a parrot. You're like a parrot with a voice, and you're like a robot to what they do, and you just copy off them, you know.
When you said about Jacob Rees-Mogg being a gift, who else?
When I first heard that, I just thought that's incredible, you know.
Who-
Diane Abbott as well, she was another one. However, Diane took me a while to get, because when I first heard the interview with Nick Ferrari in LBC, it will cost, the way she said that's the word I was listening to. And then I started doing her in my set, and then I was like, that's too high, I need to listen to her a bit more. So sometimes there's like the tweaking going on there as well. But like I say, you can do whatever material you want as Diane Abbott. I mean, when I do Diane Abbott now, I just say to the audience members, ask me a question. Could be anything, and I'll answer it as Diane Abbott. You know what I mean? And I just waffle on, and the more I'm waffling on, the more the audience are just loving it and laughing their head up, because she just never answers a question, does she? You know, and I just think that's Her and Donald Trump and people like that are just brilliant characters to do, you know?
What about the really difficult ones, the real ones that you're never going to be able to get?
David Cameron I found hard. But then Theresa May as well, I found, can I do Theresa May? And then I heard John Ravens do Theresa May, and I thought, well, do you know what? There's that little element when she says, Brexit means Brexit. She's got that little, like she's having an asthma attack in her voice, you know what I mean? But she's a difficult one to do. David Cameron, he's someone I couldn't get anywhere near. I just think people who are, like, people said to me, can you do Piers Morgan? And he's very difficult to do, Piers, but I think I've got the base of him, I think, you know. You know, what I'm saying is he's got this sort of thing going on, you know. I'm not being funny, you know. Greg's vegan sausage rolls. I mean, that's hang on. He does that, doesn't he? Stop. Hang on. So I've got the base there, but he's someone I need to watch more. You know, I just need to sit down and
Poor
go,
you.
Yeah. Do you know what I quite like him? I wrote on Twitter today, actually, I says, because on Twitter now, you got your mates saying who's following who. I don't care who's following who on Twitter. I just go on Twitter, basically, to just watch Piers Morgan wind people up. I think it's hilarious, you know? Because people get touchy, don't they, about what he said, and, you know. But I think it's great for debate, and it's entertaining, so he'll do it on purpose, though. He'll do it on purpose just to wind people up. That's why I love it, you know.
It comes to that part of the interview where I ask you to pick your dream Panto cast. You can choose the production, where it's at, who's in it. You can be in it yourself, and they can be past or present people.
Right, okay. So, here's where I would have Cinderella being the Panto, because I think it's just, I don't know, I think most people I speak to say that Cinderella's their favourite Panto.
Everybody does,
Yeah,
more or less.
love Cinderella. So that would be the Panto, so sorry for being very samey. Ugly Sisters, can they be dead?
They can be dead.
They can be dead, right. So I'd have Dave Lee and Roger Kitter playing the Ugly Sisters, because when I watched them do Cinderella, I thought that was brilliant, right? Now, Buttons, I've got a choice of two. But can one be like, can I have them? What I could do is, could I have them both like where the first one does the first half of the run and the second half does the second half of the run?
Honestly,
Right. So I would have either Bobby Davro or Jim Davidson playing Buttons. The Fairy, Barbara Windsor, got to be Barbara. I'd probably play like a small part like the bailiff, because I'd just love to be on stage with all these people and just going, how amazing is this? You know, so I'd play something like that where I'm just coming on now and again. Charlie Drake, Baron Hardup. That'd just be, I mean, when I watched him in Cinderella.
You might as well just...
We might as well just
on,
have Cinderella's, Jim Davidson's adult Panto cast, mightn't we? Cinderella, probably Michelle Keegan. I think that's a wise choice.
Prince Charming.
Prince Charming, probably John Partridge. It was incredible working with him and seeing how talented he is. You know. Can I tell you a story what happened to me and John? See, he's another one with innuendos, and I get a bit uncomfortable with it. But I remember this one particular show, like, no, I don't get uncomfortable with him. I get uncomfortable with, because I know there's families there, and I'm like, oh, you know, I'll get, like the when I was talking earlier on about the, you know, I'd love to give Cinders one, you know, that type of humour. So, and John just didn't expect this. So at the end, what he used to do is, you know, when the prince goes up the buttons at the end of the panto, and he says, oh, you know, you couldn't do me a favour, could you? You couldn't be my best man. It's on a few, you know, it's on Snow White, and it's on a few of them. So he comes up at the end, and he's very sort of like, gets up close, and he's really like camp and all that, and he goes to me, oh, buttons, you couldn't do me a favour, could you? Like that. And I went, oh, not again. Right? The room just went up. But I think that was all tongue in cheek. But I said to John, oh, can we keep that in? He went, yeah. But the first time I did it, he just didn't expect it, but he loved it. So yeah, I would have him playing Prince Charming. Michelle Keegan, yeah, as Cinderella.
Wicked Stepmother.
Oh, Wicked Stepmother. Oh, that's a...
You don't have to have a Wicked Stepmother.
You don't, but it'd be nice to have, like, you know... So the budget is unlimited.
Budget's unlimited.
The budget's unlimited, right? Okay, well, I'm sorry, but I'm having a Wicked Stepmother in there. Do you know what I mean? You know,
and a DVD
I'm making this.
well.
The FX Twins are doing the stunt, you know, the effects in it and everything like that. I'm having everything in there. Wicked Stepmother. I can't. Janet Street Porter would be quite good, I think. It's a Wicked.
That's a good call.
It is a good call, isn't it? Do you reckon she'd get on with Jim Davidson playing buttons?
Oh, wouldn't they just?
Oh, that would be brilliant. I'd actually prefer just watching the backstage antics, if I'm honest with you.
And where would you have it?
I want to say the Palladium, but everyone's probably said that. I'm in Hartlepool Town Hall. Can you imagine? The town would just be like, it would be the best thing ever that's happened to this town. You know, that in the Hartlepool Town Hall would just be incredible.
Just going back on that one, I know we've sort of kind of finished the podcast, but you said about including stuff, you know, could we keep that in? Do you like it how during a panto run, the script develops and you can add more bits? Oh, it's
great. Really good. That's what happened when I worked with Charlie. You know, there's another guy I worked with, Scott Gallagher. When I played Dame and he played comic, it was great because we just used to bounce off each other and we'd be adding stuff in. And it's one of them because you're going, oh, producers are coming tomorrow. I forgot how the original show goes. You know what I mean? And it does get like that.
Have you found any that don't like it? Or are they quite accepting?
I feel like Richard Chandler's a bit like that. He doesn't like it. He likes to see the show how we done it, which I think is fair play because at the end of the day, it's his production and he's the one paying us. Yeah. So, I mean, when I worked with Kudos in 2015. So when I'd done Northampton, Andrew Linford, the director, was really good when it came to, you know, you adding stuff in, and if you wanted to, you know, he didn't really mind as long as it was funny and as long as it didn't get out of hand, you know. And I think that's what Richard worried about really, because he, you know, the past experience of him doing Panto, he's been doing it for years, you know what I mean, and he's just a sort of wizard at it, you know. He doesn't want his show getting out of control by people who think that they can just say what they want in his production, which I think is fair enough, you know. So,
would you consider starting to write because you do a lot of writing for yourself?
I suppose I would, yeah. And I would like to sort of because like the Panto I've just recently done, we've done a couple of routines which no one else was doing, which was nice, and I wrote them. And I was working with Gary Davis, who played the Dame, and he co-writes the show and everything. But my scenes, I more or less write them anyway. But it's nice to listen. Everyone likes to see a ghost gag. Everyone likes to see the wall scene. Everyone likes to see. But it's nice to put a routine in and go, well, that's mine. Do you know what I mean? Which is difficult in Panto because there's so many brilliant routines that you can just have. You can just go, oh, well, I'll have that. You know what I mean? And I know it's going to go well. So it's easy to do that. But it's something I would probably consider.
And what's it like seeing any of your jokes copied or routines copied? Has that ever happened?
No, I haven't seen that. So I need to work harder, basically. Me material's not good enough to get nicked. It's I haven't wrote a wonky donkey routine yet like Bobby did, because a few people are doing that one now. But it's such a great routine though, isn't it? I dare use it because you'll tell me off.
Well, Danny, thank you so much for taking part in the Panto podcast.
It's been a pleasure. Listen, I bought the hobnob. It's a shame you didn't eat any of them. But, I'll have to give them to me next guest.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate.